Welcome to Judder News. This is our very first interview. I'm so excited. We have Enrique Fuentes here from Teravision Games. How would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, super excited to be here, and I love what you're doing, Megan, with this. I think this is so necessary for all the VR industry. Like, we need more news. We need we need Judder. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
And yeah, my name is Enrique Fuentes, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Teravision Games, which is a studio mainly based in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia. So we're a Latin American studio, but I'm based here in the US, in North Carolina. And yeah, we made a VR game called Captain ToonHead versus the Punks from Outer Space.
Tell us, what is the gist of Captain ToonHead versus the Punks from Outer Space?
Yeah, so Captain ToonHead versus the Punks from Outer Space, it's in essence an action tower defense, right? So it's basically a tower defense that you can get immersed into and kind of fight from the front lines. So think of it as, if you're looking at a tower defense, which for people that's not familiar with the genre, it's like one of those games where you have a path and you install towers and you got to defend your base from troops that are invading, right? So the objective is to prevent those troops to reach the base. So basically, what we did was, how would it feel if you were there? Like fighting those troops coming at you. So in the game, you have like a T-Rex that's invading, and you see that T-Rex in front of you, right? And you have the punks invading, and of course you have a cyber chicken, because you have a cyber chicken, of course. And I think the name itself, it's also like kind of a little bit of a hint of the type of mood and humor narrative you're gonna see in the game. So we made it long in purpose, like very Captain ToonHead versus Punks from Outer Space. And yeah, so it's a very, we don't take ourselves too seriously type of a game. So that you should expect that. Very silly humor, very don't take it too seriously.
Got it. Besides wanting to have a video game that you have a T-Rex and a cyber chicken in, what else inspired you all to make this game?
Yeah, so the first thing was we wanted to make something. So this was our first VR game and our first self-published game. So we wanted to make something that we could, first of all, keep it small in scope and kind of reuse a lot of the systems we built, right? And a tower defense is a type of a game that you can reuse a lot of the systems. But also, we're big fans of the tower defense, genre. So that was the fantasy we wanted to explore. Like, how would it feel to be there in the front lines fighting enemies? So yeah, we started prototyping, we started playing with that, and we loved the idea. It turned out to be very challenging in terms of UX, especially because it's a strategic game in essence. So fighting from the front lines and fighting the troops from that perspective does present some challenges that we can explore if you want to. But then it evolved, I think we were taking ourselves too seriously at the beginning, and it started actually as a game that was called Neon Fury, which was very, very, cyberpunk, very Blade Runner, But that ended up being very vanilla, like very, it didn't have a lot of identity. It didn't have like character. And we as a studio, we like to make things that, we own, that we feel like we connect with. So of course we added a chancla, a flip-flop as one of the, main weapons for the game, which, and we started adding this crazy, enemies like the cyber chicken and the punks, and it started to grow from there, and we started connecting more with the game, and we felt that it started to have a little bit more of our Latin American soul as creators.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the first iteration was Neon Fury, but how long would you say it took you all to develop and create Captain ToonHead?
Yeah, it's one of those very, very hard questions to answer because, first of all, Neon Fury had its own development time that if you take into consideration, since we started creating Neon Fury, I would say more than 4 years, the whole development process. But if you kind of reset after we said, okay, we're going to pivot from here. And for a very long time, we only had one level, just the one level with like 3 enemies and just iterating on the UX challenges of the game. Like how do we resolve the system, installing a tower? How much of that is, there's embodiment in VR? How much of it is like just hammering stuff? How much do you want to use, UI menus and stuff like that? So we had a lot of iterations. How do you face challenges like sense of location, right? Like you teleport from tower to tower. At the beginning, people would get lost, so we added landmarks and stuff like that. So we tried a lot on that level. So it's not like we restarted the whole thing, because a lot of learnings from Neon Fury were inherited to Captain ToonHead. But then when we reset, it was like 3 years. So it took a long time. And I think a lot of it was polishing. A lot of it was, a lot of UR, a lot of iterations on the UX. I think we polished our game a lot, and hopefully, it
shows. It's beautiful. Yeah. And so this was your first self-published title. This is your first title in VR. What were some of the challenges that you encountered in developing VR? Because I don't think most people know, going from the pancake flat video game development world over to VR is a really big shift, and developing in VR is challenging, but most people don't have that insight. So what can you share there?
Yeah, I mean, there's like the most, I don't know if obvious is the word, but like the most known challenges that everybody faces. Number one being optimization. Like we knew optimization was going to be a challenge, but oh boy, I mean, like when we started with PC, right? It was all HTC and Rift at that time. Then PlayStation VR became the leader, so we had to optimize for PlayStation VR, and it was a big change. We had that was one of the moments where we saw, okay, this is not going to work the way it is. That was actually one of the things that was very convenient for us to iterate to something more cartoonish, because it helped optimization. But then Quest became the thing, right? And we were fortunate enough, super lucky to be able to have our game on that platform, because as you know, it's a super curated platform. But we were able to get in there. They wanted our gaming in their platform, so now we had to optimize again. And at that time was Quest 1, which is running in a very, very, very low end device. Now people just can't get away with having their game on Quest 2 only because you don't have to support Quest 1. But supporting Quest 1 was a big challenge. So yeah, a lot of optimization challenges, and that's a whole interview that and then talk we can have about, not with me, with our engineers, but I think it's a very interesting conversation. But then I think another huge challenge that maybe is not that as evident as this one is product strategy. Because right now, you see the store, and like I think one of the big challenges we have was the game we built was a game. It was a game with progression, with narrative, and I think in retrospective, having the right fit for the market. Right now, the market favors way more embodiment and presence, right? So I think that's something we learned. And if you see a lot of the leaders in the store right now, some of them are super simple games, super simple games that favor. Even there's a lot of problems with UX in a lot of those games. I'm not going to name any specific ones, of course, but like you play some of those games and you see that there's a lot of room for improvement in UX. But I think the challenge is to project in the future, right? Like, is this going to be the reality for the next couple of years? Because if you start making a game right now based on the realities of the store,
Yeah.
the current realities of the store, in 2 years, that's already obsolete. So I think that's a huge challenge to project where the market is going to be, and what needs to be built now that's going to be relevant in a couple of years. My bet is that it's going to get way more sophisticated.
Hmm.
The market is going to favor polishing and more, complex, experiences than what it's working right now.
Yeah. In terms of Captain ToonHead, what would you say? I'll shift it up a little. What would you say are three comparable games? If I like these games, would I like Captain ToonHead?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind, and I think it's because of the nature of the narrative and the essence of the IP, would be Trover. And I think if you like Trover, if you like that, I mean, our game is there's way less cursing in our game, like no cursing, which I love in Trover. I think it's extremely funny, but kind of the essence of it's not a game that takes itself too seriously, and so on. What will be another one?
It doesn't have to be VR, like Orcs,
Yeah, well, I think if you like a game like Kingdom Rush, which is a beautiful tower defense, I think you're gonna enjoy Captain ToonHead as well, because especially because of the element of the champion that you can position in different places, right? So that's something that we definitely got a lot of inspiration from. And another, there's first person tower defenses like Sanctum, for instance, where you're actually building stuff around you. Another big inspiration from us, and I think if people like this game, there's a very good chance you like Captain ToonHead. It's Orcs Must Die.
Yeah, so I was thinking like that's a really good one. That if you like this game, you're most definitely gonna like Captain ToonHead.
Absolutely, and I think Orcs Must Die. And big shout out to Robot. They're an amazing studio, amazing people too. I think what they did with their game really, really helped us unlock a little bit of an issue we were having with Captain ToonHead when we were designing, because we were in that tension between strategic and action, right? If it leaned too much towards strategic, you lose a lot of the immersion, a lot of the sense of presence. If you favor too much the shooting aspect of it and the first person and action aspect of the game, you lose a lot of the strategic. So, and I think Orcs Must Die is a very good reference in that sense, because it doesn't punish you too much if you don't make the perfect decision on the strategic side. You're placing traps, but you can also, if you screw up a little bit with your strategy, you can compensate with your shooting and with the first person. So that was something that we observed, and we loved that game. So definitely something that we was a big inspiration from us.
What's one secret tidbit about Captain ToonHead versus the Punks from Outer Space that you'd feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I mean, during the development process, there's so many things that it's a constant problem solving, right? It's stuff that you're presented with the challenge, and you look for potential solutions, and so there's a lot of stuff we made up in the process. So the IP, for instance, was a big one, right? Like when we faced that moment where we felt like it was too vanilla. Like the hero was this very plain looking kid with an astronaut suit, right? And I think that was a very pivotal moment for us, because like a branching moment, because we looked at it and we said, like, this is not really something, this is not really the thing that represents us. It's too safe.
Yeah.
So we said, like, okay, what one reference we looked at all the time, it's Shovel Knight, right? So we said, like, this is a knight. This is a very plain thing, but they added a shovel, right? And now it made it super different. So
Yeah.
kind of a question we would always ask internally, it's where's our shovel? Where's the thing that's gonna somehow make this guy different? And that's how we added the TV as a helmet, right? Like,
Gotcha.
this is something, and I always said, with LED, which is our creative director, like, it needs to be something that it's easy to draw, right? Like it's something that we used as a easy to draw, and that has something that somehow decontextualize the character from everything. It's in space, but instead of putting a helmet, we put a TV. There's other characters out there with TVs in their heads, of course. Yeah, we know that. It's not something we were the first ones to do it, but yeah, that was one thing, from the creative process that we liked, and then that opened up the door for other stuff like the chancla and
I love the chocolate.
yeah, we love it too. On the kind of game design aspects and implementation, I think there's a lot of little tricks, right, that we as developers do, that once you are playing, you don't even realize. But one that comes to mind is that when you throw, you got to collect your scraps, which is like the coins you collect once you defeat enemies to build towers, right? And you gotta throw your hammer to collect those. So one thing we realized is that if they were too far, if you threw the hammer, sometimes you missed, and that was very frustrating, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was becoming, the farther those scraps were, the harder it was to collect them. So we implemented some trick, we cheated a little bit, and we implemented a cone that so the collision area for the hammer, it's a cone.
Yeah.
So it becomes bigger the farther it travels, right? And it just works, right? Like,
Yeah.
you throw the hammer, and it, like, the coins are here, the scraps are here,
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
It collects them if they're far enough, and people feel like, I'm so good.
That's a beautiful
I never miss.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so little tricks, and I'm sure every game developer has a ton of those that it's just in the background. It works one way, and it helps the experience.
It's so much more satisfying too. Like,
yeah.
All right,
super self promotional, but I think it deserves the promotion, Megan. Didn't you agree? I think it's one of the things I feel like it's kind of a compliment, but I hate it is when people say it's a hidden gem, and a lot of people talks about Captain ToonHead that way, like it's a hidden gem. I don't want it to be a hidden gem. I want people to know about it, and I want it to be a very well-known gem. So I see the level of polishing that some, again, very successful games have, and I think Captain ToonHead has so much polishing, and the UX is very well implemented. So,
and it's hilarious. Like, it's just so good.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think it's one of those things that you either love it or hate it. So, and I think you gotta, if you're gonna play it, you gotta ask the question, like, do you want something that's gonna change your life forever and leave you with a very, very good message? And that's not Captain ToonHead. If you're looking for some very, very light entertainment and just getting a few laughs, tons of references to pop culture, then Captain ToonHead is the game for you.
I love it. All right, this has been spectacular. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information with us today for Judder News. Again, check out Captain ToonHead versus the Punks from Outer Space. It's available currently on which platforms?
It's available on PCVR, so on HTC, Rift, and Index, and it's available on Quest, and it will be available soon. I'm not gonna say it because that's a PR. My PR manager would would be mad at me if I say it. But yeah, it's coming to other platforms, let's say.
Thank you very, very much for your time today, Enrique.
Megan, thank you. And again, what you're doing is fantastic. And we need Judder. It's a great initiative.